The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen as Elena set the table with careful precision. A warm glow from the morning sun streamed through the large windows, casting golden hues on the marble countertops. Today was special, her anniversary. A decade of love, laughter, and unwavering devotion. She smiled to herself as she placed a small velvet box beside the breakfast tray, eager to surprise Adrian before he left for work. Her heart swelled with affection as she glanced at the framed wedding photo on the dining table. They had built a beautiful life together, a life she never once doubted. He was her world, her safe haven, the man who had promised forever. The sound of the front door unlocking pulled her from her thoughts. Adrian entered, dressed impeccably in his tailored suit, carrying the air of confidence that had first drawn her to him. He kissed her temple absent-mindedly, his mind already elsewhere. "You're home early," she said, a playful lilt in her voice. "Meeting got cancelled," he replied, loosening his tie. "Long night at work. I'm exhausted." "Then breakfast is perfect timing," she beamed, pushing the tray toward him. "Happy anniversary, love." He hesitated for a fraction of a second before forcing a smile. "Of course. Happy anniversary, Elena." Something in his voice felt off, but she brushed it aside, convincing herself it was just fatigue. As he picked at his food, she excused herself to retrieve his gift, excitement bubbling in her chest. On her way to their bedroom, she passed by his study. The door, usually locked, was ajar. Curiosity flickered in her mind. He was meticulous about his privacy, and she had never intruded. But today, something made her stop. Maybe it was the way he had hesitated earlier, or maybe it was an instinct buried deep within her heart. She took a cautious step inside. The room smelled of cedar and leather, shelves lined with legal books and neatly organized files. A sense of unease curled around her as she scanned the desk. Her gaze landed on a drawer that was slightly open. A flutter of hesitation gripped her chest before she reached out, pulling it wider. There, amid a stack of documents, lay an official-looking envelope. Her fingers trembled as she lifted it, her breath catching in her throat. The words "marriage certificate" were printed boldly across the top. But it wasn't her name written next to Adrian's. Elena felt the ground shift beneath her feet, a hollow numbness spreading through her veins. Her perfect life, the love she had cherished for 10 years, shattered in an instant. Her husband was already married, to someone else. The room blurred around her as the weight of the betrayal sank in. Her hands clenched the document, heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. How long had this lie been woven into her life? How many times had she looked into his eyes, believing she was the only one? A bitter laugh bubbled in her throat, but no sound came out. She staggered back, her breath shallow, mind racing through memories that suddenly felt tainted. The stolen glances, the late-night meetings, the hushed phone calls, had they all been signs she had foolishly ignored? A sound at the doorway made her whirl around. Adrian stood there, his expression unreadable, but in his eyes, she saw something she had never noticed before: guilt. Their perfect life had been nothing more than a beautiful illusion, and now, the illusion had shattered. Elena's fingers trembled as she held the marriage certificate, her vision blurring as disbelief and anger clashed within her. The room felt suffocating, walls closing in, the weight of her world collapsing. "Elena," Adrian's voice was cautious, controlled. She snapped her gaze to him, the document clenched in her hand. "How long?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but the accusation was deafening. A muscle ticked in his jaw. He took a step forward, but she recoiled, stepping back. "Answer me, Adrian," she demanded, her voice breaking. "How long have you been married to someone else while I played the fool?" His silence was louder than any confession. She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "God, I must be blind. 10 years, Adrian. 10 years, and I never saw it. I trusted you. I built my life around you." His eyes flickered with something unreadable. Regret? Guilt? Or was it simply frustration that he had been caught? "I can explain," he finally said, his voice calm, too calm, like he was trying to control the damage. Elena scoffed. Explain? You can explain this. She held up the certificate, the paper crumpling under the pressure of her grip. There's nothing to explain. You lied to me. You let me believe I was your wife when I was just what? A second choice? A convenience? Adrian ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, she snapped. He hesitated. That moment of pause sent another stab of pain through her chest. There was something he wasn't saying. Elena's breath came in shaky bursts as she pieced together the cruel truth. Does she know about me? Her voice wavered. Does your real wife know that I exist? Adrian's silence was answer enough. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not in front of him. She had spent 10 years believing in a love that had been built on lies, and now, she had no idea who the man in front of her truly was. Adrian sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. Elena, please. Just let me explain. Let me fix this. She stared at him, her heart aching from the betrayal. Fix this? She echoed, shaking her head. There's no fixing this, Adrian. You destroyed everything. The weight of his deception pressed down on her like a crushing force. And in that moment, she knew, whatever love she had for him, whatever trust she had placed in him, had shattered beyond repair. She turned away, gripping the certificate as if it were the last piece of proof that her life hadn't been just a dream. I need space, she whispered, barely holding herself together. I need to think. Elena. Don't. She cut him off, her voice sharp. Don't say anything else. Just let me go. And with that, she walked past him, her world in ruins, but her resolve unshaken. She needed the truth, and she was going to find it, with or without him. Elena walked out of the study with the marriage certificate clutched in her trembling hands, her mind racing through every moment of her life with Adrian. Their wedding day, their anniversaries, the whispered promises in the dead of night. Were they all lies? Had she been nothing more than a well-kept secret? Her breathing was ragged as she made her way upstairs to their bedroom, the room where she had spent countless nights feeling safe in his arms. Now, the very air felt tainted, heavy with deceit. She stood in front of their wardrobe, staring at the neatly arranged clothes. How many times had she picked out his ties, smoothed out the creases on his shirts, thinking she was taking care of the man she loved? A bitter laugh bubbled in her throat. She had been taking care of a man who belonged to someone else. She needed answers. Tossing the certificate onto the bed, she grabbed her phone and searched for the name written beside Adrian's, Sophia Carter. The name meant nothing to her. Her hands trembled as she typed it into a search engine. The results loaded, and a familiar sense of dread settled in her stomach. Sophia Carter Winters. Winters. Her breath caught. It was the name of one of the most powerful business families in the country. A family known for its influence, its wealth, and its secrets. Clicking on the first result, a news article from years ago popped up. Sophia Carter Winters, daughter of the influential Winters family, seen attending a charity gala with her husband, Adrian Winters. Elena's vision blurred as she read the words over and over again. Adrian Winters. Her husband wasn't even who he said he was. Her mind spun. Adrian had never been one for extravagant displays of wealth. He had always been comfortable, successful in his career, but never ostentatious. Now she understood why. He had been hiding in plain sight. A bitter lump formed in her throat. How had she never suspected? How had he managed to lead two lives for so long? The sound of heavy footsteps behind her made her stiffen. She turned, and there he was, Adrian Winters. Not her Adrian. Not the man she thought she had married. But a stranger. Elena, he said, his voice softer now, measured. I know you're angry. Angry, she whispered, staring at him in disbelief. Adrian, you're married. To someone else. You have an entire life I never knew about. And you lied to me for 10 years. Elena, listen to me. He took a step forward, but she raised a hand, stopping him. Don't, she said, her voice shaking. Don't try to explain this away. Don't try to twist it like it's something I'll understand. He exhaled heavily, rubbing a hand over his face. I never meant to hurt you. A humorless laugh escaped her lips. That's the thing about liars, isn't it? They never mean to hurt people, but they do it anyway. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and for the first time in their marriage, she saw panic in his eyes. I love you, Elena. Her heart twisted painfully. You don't get to say that. Love doesn't look like this. She gestured to the document on the bed, the undeniable truth of his betrayal. Love isn't built on lies. He ran a hand through his hair, his carefully composed mask slipping. It's not that simple. Oh, I think it is. She took a step back, needing the space, needing to breathe. You played me. You made me believe we had something real, while all this time, you had a whole other life. I left that life behind, he said, his voice raw. I left her behind. I chose you. Elena froze. She doesn't know, does she? Adrian hesitated. Oh my God, she whispered. She doesn't know. His silence was all the answer she needed. Sophia Carter-Winters had no idea that her husband had spent the last decade married to another woman. A fresh wave of nausea rolled over Elena. Not only had he lied to her, but he had been deceiving Sophia too. Elena, please. I need time, she interrupted, shaking her head. I need to think. His jaw clenched. Don't do anything rash. She let out a cold laugh. Rash? Like marrying someone who is already married. He didn't reply. Elena took a deep breath, steadying herself. I want the truth. All of it. And if you lie to me again, Adrian, I swear I will walk out that door and never look back. He swallowed hard, nodding once. But deep down, she already knew, no matter what he said, she could never trust him again. And trust, once broken, was nearly impossible to rebuild. Elena barely slept that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while the weight of Adrian's betrayal crushed her. Every breath felt heavy, every memory tainted. The bed that once felt like a sanctuary now felt foreign, a place where lies had been whispered in the dark. Adrian had tried to talk to her again before going to bed, but she had shut the door on him. She wasn't ready to hear his excuses. Now, as the sun peeked through the curtains, she knew she couldn't keep pretending. She needed answers. She pushed back the covers and got out of bed. Adrian was nowhere to be seen. Good. With determination, she grabbed her phone and opened a private browser. If Adrian wouldn't give her the truth, she would find it herself. She typed in Sophia Carter-Winters again, scrolling through articles and social media profiles. Sophia was beautiful, sophisticated, the perfect image of a high society wife. But there were barely any recent mentions of her and Adrian together. Their last public appearance had been 6 years ago. 6 years. That was when Adrian's job had relocated him to the city. When he had asked Elena to marry him. Her stomach churned. Had he married her as a way to escape Sophia? Or had he simply needed a place to hide while keeping his real life intact? A sudden urge took over her. She needed to see Sophia. A risky encounter. By the time Elena arrived at the grand office building downtown, she had no idea what she was going to say. The Winters Corporation logo gleamed on the entrance. People in tailored suits walked in and out, their presence exuding power. This was Adrian's world, the world he had kept from her. She stepped inside, her heart pounding. A receptionist greeted her with a polite smile. Good morning. Do you have an appointment? Elena swallowed hard. I'm here to see Sophia Carter-Winters. The receptionist's expression turned professional. Mrs. Winters doesn't take unscheduled meetings. May I ask who you are? She hesitated. Giving her real name felt like a risk, but what choice did she have? My name is Elena, she said, her voice steady. It's about her husband. That got the receptionist's attention. She gave Elena a long look before picking up the phone and murmuring something. After a few moments, she nodded. Mrs. Winters will see you. Please take the elevator to the top floor. Elena's hands were clammy as she stepped into the elevator, watching the numbers climb. When the doors opened, she was led to a sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows. And there, standing behind a mahogany desk, was Sophia Carter-Winters. She was even more breathtaking in person, poised, elegant, every bit the woman Elena could never be. Sophia's sharp eyes studied her. You said this was about my husband. Elena forced herself to meet her gaze.
Yes.
About Adrian. Something flickered in Sophia's expression. Adrian, she repeated, her voice slow, careful. Elena reached into her bag, pulled out the marriage certificate, and placed it on the desk. I think we need to talk. The truth unfolds. Sophia sat down, picking up the document. Her fingers traced over the words, her eyes scanning the paper. When she looked up, her face was unreadable. Where did you get this? Elena clenched her fists. I found it in Adrian's office. Her voice wavered. I didn't know. I swear, I had no idea he was already married. I thought I was his wife. Sophia let out a slow exhale, leaning back in her chair. For a long moment, she said nothing, her eyes distant. Then, to Elena's shock, she laughed. A cold, humorless laugh. Of course, Sophia murmured, shaking her head. Of course he did this. Elena's breath caught. You knew. Sophia's gaze met hers, sharp and calculating. Not exactly, but I suspected Adrian was hiding something. She tapped the document. I just never imagined it was this. Elena's stomach twisted. You haven't been together in years, have you? Sophia tilted her head. Not as husband and wife, no. But legally?
Yes.
We never divorced. Why? Sophia gave a slow smile, one filled with something Elena couldn't quite place. Because, darling, in the world we come from, marriage isn't just about love. It's about power. And Adrian knew that if he walked away from the Winter's name, he would lose everything. Elena's breath caught. So, he stayed married to you for the power? Exactly. The realization hit like a punch. Adrian hadn't chosen Elena over Sophia. He had been trapped. Sophia studied her. I take it he never told you who he really was? Elena shook her head, her throat tightening. Sophia sighed. Then I suppose it's time we both get some answers. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. Adrian, she said smoothly when he answered. I suggest you get here. Now. Elena's heart pounded as Sophia hung up. Let's see what your husband has to say for himself. Elena sat in the sleek leather chair across from Sophia, her fingers curled into fists on her lap. The air in the office was thick with tension, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down on them both. Minutes felt like hours as they waited. Then the door swung open. Adrian strode in, his expression composed, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes when he saw Elena sitting beside his other wife. Sophia leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs with deliberate grace. Adrian, she greeted smoothly. How lovely of you to join us. His jaw tightened. Sophia. Then his gaze flicked to Elena, a muscle in his cheek twitching. Elena, you shouldn't be here. She stood, her emotions churning. You don't get to tell me what I should or shouldn't do, Adrian. Not after this. She jabbed a finger at the marriage certificate lying between them. He inhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. I can explain. Sophia let out a sharp laugh. Oh, please do enlighten us. Because I, for one, would love to hear how you justify bigamy. Adrian shot her a dark look but quickly turned back to Elena. It's not what you think. Her voice was barely a whisper. Then tell me what it is, Adrian. Because right now, it looks like I've spent the last 10 years of my life as the other woman without even knowing it. He exhaled slowly. Sophia and we haven't been together in a long time. Our marriage was a business transaction? Sophia finished for him, her tone laced with sarcasm. Yes, darling, I know. But you see, the problem is, you never actually ended it before running off and marrying someone else. Elena flinched. She hated the way Sophia said it, like Adrian's betrayal had been inconvenient rather than painful. Adrian's shoulders tensed. I wanted out. I tried. Sophia arched a brow. Oh, forgive me, but I don't recall signing divorce papers. Because I never had the chance to file them. His voice was strained now. Your father made sure of that. Sophia's expression didn't change, but something flashed in her eyes. Elena looked between them. What does that mean? Adrian let out a bitter chuckle. It means Sophia's father was never going to let me leave. He knew I wasn't in love with her. He knew I wanted out, and that was a threat to his precious family legacy. Sophia's nails tapped against the desk. And yet, that didn't stop you from secretly marrying Elena. Adrian's gaze softened as he looked at Elena. Because I loved her. The words sent a fresh wave of pain through her. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to cling to the idea that something in their marriage had been real. But how could love be real when it was built on a lie? Sophia stood gracefully, walking toward the window, her arms crossed. Let's say I believe you, Adrian. Let's say my father did force you to stay. That doesn't explain why you never told Elena the truth. She turned, her gaze sharp. Or were you just hoping she'd never find out? Adrian opened his mouth, but no words came out. Elena's breath caught. You weren't you? Her voice trembled, but her anger burned beneath it. You were never going to tell me. Adrian took a step toward her. I wanted to protect you. She shook her head, stepping back.
No.
You wanted to protect yourself. Silence. Sophia let out a small sigh. Well, this has been delightful, but I believe we have a bigger problem now. Elena frowned. What do you mean? Sophia turned to Adrian. My father.
He doesn't know about her, does he?
Adrian clenched his jaw.
No.
Sophia let out a soft laugh. Well, he's going to find out now. A chill ran down Elena's spine. What are you saying? Sophia looked at her with something almost like pity. My father is a powerful man, Elena. And he doesn't take kindly to being made a fool of. Elena swallowed hard. So, what happens now? Sophia gave Adrian a pointed look. That depends on him. Adrian ran a hand through his hair, tension radiating from every inch of him. I'll handle it. Sophia arched a brow. Like you handled this situation? Elena hated how her heart twisted at the way Adrian flinched. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. I don't care about your father, or your business deals, or whatever power games you're playing. She looked Adrian in the eyes, her voice firm. I just want to know one thing. He swallowed. Anything. She lifted the marriage certificate. Are you still married to her? Silence. Then, quietly, painfully, yes. The words shattered something inside her. She nodded, tears burning behind her eyes. Then I guess we really were never anything at all. And with that, she turned and walked away. Adrian didn't stop her. He couldn't, because this time, she wasn't just walking away from a conversation. She was walking away from him. Elena walked out of the law office, her heart pounding so hard it drowned out the sounds of the city around her. The world outside was the same, cars honking, people moving, but inside her, everything had changed. Her hands trembled as she clutched the marriage certificate. Proof of the lies she had lived. Proof that the man she had loved, the man she had built a life with, had never been hers to begin with. She barely noticed where she was going. Her feet carried her forward blindly, away from the weight of the confrontation, away from Adrian, away from the shattering of everything she had believed in.
Her phone buzzed in her bag.
She ignored it. It buzzed again. With shaking fingers, she pulled it out.
Adrian.
She hesitated.
For a second.
For a breath. Then she declined the call. She didn't want to hear his excuses. Not now. Maybe not ever. The sky overhead darkened as clouds gathered, as if the universe itself mirrored the storm inside her. How could he have done this to her? She had loved him. She had trusted him with everything. And now? She wasn't even sure she knew him. She kept walking until her legs ached, until the cold air bit into her skin. A familiar voice called her name. Elena. She turned, startled. It was Claire, her best friend. The concern in Claire's eyes was immediate as she took in Elena's pale face, the way she hugged herself tightly. What happened? Elena opened her mouth, but the words stuck in her throat. Claire stepped closer, her voice gentler now. Elena, talk to me. Elena's fingers clenched around the paper in her hands. Slowly, she extended it. Claire took it, her eyes scanning the document. And then she froze. Oh my God. Elena let out a shaky breath.
Yeah.
Claire's gaze snapped up. Is this real? Elena gave a hollow laugh. It's real, Claire. My marriage, on the other hand, was not. Claire swore under her breath, folding the paper and gripping it tightly. That bastard. Elena sank onto a nearby bench, exhaustion pressing down on her. What am I supposed to do now? Claire sat beside her, placing a hand over hers. You leave him, Elena. You don't look back. Elena let out a bitter laugh. You make it sound so easy. Claire's expression hardened. It's not easy. It's painful, and it's unfair, and it's going to hurt like hell. But you can't stay, Elena. You deserve better than this. A tear slipped down Elena's cheek. She wiped it away quickly, but Claire saw. And Claire didn't let go of her hand. For a long time, they just sat there, as the city moved on around them, as Elena tried to breathe through the weight of her betrayal. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she turned it off. She wasn't ready to face Adrian yet. She wasn't sure she ever would be. Elena sat in her apartment, staring at the suitcase lying open on the bed. It had started with just a single blouse. Then another. And another. Now, nearly half her wardrobe was packed, her hands moving mechanically as if they knew something her heart had yet to accept. She had spent years in this home. Years building a life with Adrian, filling every corner with love, trust, and laughter. But all of it had been built on a lie. The doorbell rang. She stiffened. A part of her already knew who it was. Slowly, she made her way to the door, her fingers trembling as she unlocked it. Adrian stood on the other side, his expression unreadable. Elena, he said, his voice soft, almost pleading.
She didn't respond.
She simply turned and walked back inside, leaving the door open behind her. He hesitated, then stepped inside, shutting the door. His eyes flicked to the half-packed suitcase, and a shadow crossed his face. You're leaving. Elena folded a dress neatly before setting it inside. What did you expect me to do, Adrian? Pretend I never found out. His jaw tensed. I didn't want this to happen. She let out a bitter laugh. And yet, here we are. He ran a hand through his hair. Elena, She held up a hand. Don't say you can explain. Don't ask me to understand. I've spent the past few days trying to make sense of this, of us, and the only thing I keep coming back to is that you lied to me. For 10 years, Adrian. He exhaled sharply. I tried to fix it. I wanted to end things with Sophia. Elena's fingers curled into the fabric of her dress. But you didn't. I couldn't. His voice was tight with frustration. You don't understand what her family is like. Elena turned to face him fully. Then you should have told me, Adrian. You should have given me a choice instead of making it for me. Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Adrian stepped forward, his eyes desperate. I love you, Elena. Her heart clenched. For years, those words had been her everything. But now they felt hollow. She shook her head, her voice breaking. You don't get to say that to me. Not after this. His face fell. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did. Her voice wavered, but she didn't back down. And I can't spend the rest of my life wondering if the next thing you tell me is a lie. Adrian's hands clenched at his sides. So that's it? You're just walking away? Tears burned in her eyes, but she held her ground. No, Adrian. You walked away from us the moment you chose to keep this from me. For the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. Elena, please. She inhaled sharply, steeling herself. I deserve better than this. And with that, she turned back to her suitcase, zipping it shut. Adrian didn't try to stop her, because for the first time he realized he had already lost her. Elena walked out of the apartment with nothing but her suitcase and the weight of her shattered heart. The night air was crisp, biting against her skin as she stood outside, breathing deeply, forcing herself not to turn back. She had spent too many years in that space, in that lie, wrapped in the illusion of love. But now she was free. Or at least she was trying to be. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She already knew who it was. Adrian. She clenched her fists, willing herself not to answer. But the pain in her chest refused to fade, and despite everything, some foolish part of her still longed to understand why. Why had he kept her trapped in a love that was never truly hers? Before she could convince herself otherwise, she answered. For a long moment, there was only silence on the other end. Then his voice came, quiet and raw. Elena. She swallowed hard, closing her eyes. What do you want, Adrian? I need to see you. She let out a hollow laugh. You already saw me. Packing my things. Walking away. I need to talk to you, he insisted. There are things I need to say. You've had 10 years to say them. Elena, please. His voice cracked, just slightly, and damn him, it still hurt to hear. She should have hung up. She should have told him no. But against her better judgment, she found herself whispering, where? She met him at a small park near their old apartment, a place they used to go to when life felt too overwhelming. It was late, the streets nearly empty, the world cloaked in quiet. Adrian was already there, standing by a bench, his hands buried in his pockets. His face looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then he took a deep breath. I never wanted to lie to you. She crossed her arms. And yet you did. His jaw clenched and he nodded. I did. Elena frowned. She had expected excuses, justifications. Not this. Adrian ran a hand down his face before looking at her, his gaze heavy with something she couldn't quite place. Sophia's family is powerful, controlling. I married her because I was forced to. Because my father. He exhaled sharply. I wasn't given a choice, Elena. Her stomach twisted. But you had a choice after that. You had a choice when you met me. When you fell in love with me. You could have told me, Adrian. He flinched. I know. She shook her head, stepping back. You let me believe in a life that wasn't real. How do I forgive that? He didn't answer. Because they both knew there was no answer that would make this right. Elena, he whispered, his voice breaking. I love you. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Love isn't supposed to feel like this, Adrian. He swallowed hard. What if I leave her? Elena's heart ached. It was what she had once dreamed of.
But now?
Now, it was too late. She gave him a sad smile. Then you'll finally be free. But I won't be waiting. Adrian's expression shattered, and for the first time, she saw the depth of his regret. But regret wasn't love. And it wasn't enough. Elena turned and walked away. This time, she didn't look back. Elena didn't cry. She thought she would. She thought leaving Adrian behind would shatter her completely, that she'd collapse under the weight of heartbreak. But instead, there was only exhaustion. A deep, aching emptiness that spread through her chest like a storm that had passed, leaving destruction in its wake. She was done. Done with the lies, the pain, the illusion of love that had never truly belonged to her. The taxi pulled up in front of Claire's apartment, and Elena climbed out, dragging her suitcase behind her. Claire opened the door before she could even knock. Oh, thank God, she breathed, pulling Elena into a tight hug. Elena stiffened, then let out a slow breath, sinking into the warmth of her best friend's embrace. You're staying here, Claire said firmly, pulling her inside. No arguments. Elena let out a weak laugh. I wasn't planning on arguing. Claire studied her closely, eyes filled with concern. Did he try to stop you? Elena hesitated.
No.
Not really. Claire scoffed. Coward. Elena wished she could disagree. But in the end, Adrian hadn't fought for her. Maybe he'd known it was already too late. She collapsed onto Claire's couch, staring at the ceiling. It's over. Claire sat beside her, placing a hand on her arm. Then, why do you look like you're still waiting for something? Elena turned her head slightly, meeting Claire's gaze. Because part of me thought love was supposed to be enough. Claire sighed. Love is enough. But only if it's real. Only if it's given freely, without conditions, without secrets. Elena swallowed hard. Then maybe I've never had it. Claire squeezed her hand. Then you will. For the first time, Elena allowed herself to believe it. The next few weeks passed in a blur. She moved into a small apartment, started rebuilding the life that had been stolen from her. Every morning, she woke up alone, and some days, the loneliness threatened to pull her under. But she was free. And freedom, even when it hurt, was better than being trapped in a lie. Adrian didn't call again. She wasn't sure if that made it easier or harder. One afternoon, as she left work, she spotted a familiar figure standing across the street. Her heart clenched. Adrian. He looked different. More tired. More distant. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then he gave her the smallest, saddest smile. And he walked away. Elena watched him go, her chest tight. But she didn't chase after him. She let him go. Just as she had let herself go. Just as she had finally begun to move on.
The seasons changed.
Leaves turned golden, then fell. Snow blanketed the streets, melting into the first warmth of spring. And with each passing day, Elena found herself thinking of Adrian less and less. It wasn't easy. Some nights, she still woke up expecting to feel the warmth of him beside her. Some moments, she caught herself reaching for her phone, instinctively wanting to tell him about something small, something meaningless, but she always stopped herself before dialing his number. She was learning to live without him, learning to rebuild herself from the broken pieces he had left behind. And somewhere along the way, she realized she was no longer just surviving. She was living. It was a quiet Saturday morning when Claire dragged her to a small cafe downtown. "You need to get out," Claire declared, shoving a cup of coffee into Elena's hands. "I swear, if I let you, you'd spend every weekend locked in that apartment of yours." Elena rolled her eyes but smiled. "I like my apartment," Claire huffed.
Fine.
"But I refuse to let you turn into some kind of tragic, heartbroken recluse." Elena laughed. It had been a long time since she had laughed like that, effortlessly, without the weight of grief in her chest. Maybe she really was moving on. As they sipped their coffee, a shadow fell across their table. "Excuse me," a deep voice said. Elena looked up, her breath catching slightly. The man standing before her was tall, with dark hair and warm brown eyes. He had an easy smile, but there was something in his gaze, something curious, something familiar. "I don't mean to interrupt," he said, shifting slightly, "but I think you dropped this outside." He held out a small notebook. Elena blinked, recognizing it instantly. She must have dropped it when she stepped out of the car. "Oh," she said, reaching for it. "Thank you." The man hesitated for just a second, then smiled again. "You look familiar," he admitted. "Have we met before?" Elena tilted her head, studying him. "I don't think so." His smile grew. "Then maybe this is a good place to start." And just like that, something shifted. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was something. A new beginning. And for the first time in a long, long time, Elena was ready.